Chess can be full of myths, so let's see which ones are the worst. 5 myths that actually harm your chess. The world is full of chess advice. You'll find all sorts of ideas in books, videos and articles. While most of the wisdom you receive will help your game, here are 5 popular pieces of advice but you're better off ignoring. Number 1. Don't play Blitz. Yes, I have played a Blitz game once. It was on a train in 1929. Former world champion Mikhail Botvinnik to GM Jen Nasasenko, and we see a man playing a normal game of chess. Kind of looks like it's AI generated, but what do I know? For many years, it's been conventional wisdom that fast chess games are like candy, for momentarily satisfying, but will rot your teeth, or your brain, in this case. Botvinnik famously preached against Blitz, and the GM Bobby Fischer once said that Blitz chess kills your ideas. However, if you want to play like GMs Magnus, Carlsen and Hikaru Nakamura, you probably shouldn't shun one of their favourite activities. Nowadays, nearly all top players play tens of thousands of Blitz games on their way to the top. There's simply no good substitute for practice that playing against strong competition provides. It makes sense, in some way, because you are playing lots of games. You are getting practice. At the very least, you're training your tactics, which will be useful, but you are not practicing calculating long lines, and that could be a problem. Even though he criticised it, Fischer played Blitz too. He even included a beautiful Blitz game in his book, by 16 memorable games. Sometimes you're better off emulating grandmasters, rather than listening to their advice. Exactly. As Jung said, you're not what you say you'll do, you're what you do. To ensure that Blitz is helping you improve, analyze your games afterwards. It's easy to click the game review button after each game, and take a look to figure out where you had some great ideas that you'll want to repeat in the future, and where you made some mistakes that you can avoid. Yeah, it's easy to click the game review button if you pay with money. But I guess if you want to become a chess player, sometimes you have to invest. Obviously, Botvinnik and Fischer didn't have access to game review. Of course, that's why you should buy them, using my chess.com link in the description. Blitz is also an effective way to learn your openings, in the way that we'll discuss next. Myth number 2. You shouldn't spend time learning openings. Okay, this is already stupid. Everyone has to learn openings. If you actually want to be a bit good at this game, you should know some openings. You may have heard the popular advice that beginners should avoid studying openings and focus exclusively on tactics. Openings can be a rabbit hole that will suck you in if you're not careful. If you're new to chess, you probably have better ways to spend your time rather than watching all 43 hours of GM Fabiano Caruana's Chessable course on the Dark Angel variation of Rui Lopez. Leave that to the pros. Already 3 minutes on one variation of Rui Lopez? That's kind of messed up. On the other hand, every chess game starts in the same position, so it's good to know a few things. First, you should learn the goals of the opening. Develop your pieces, control the center, and castle your king to safety. After that, it's a good idea to understand the plans for both sides in your main openings. Here's a great place to start. What's this? Learn every chess opening. What? Jeez, you can learn every chess opening here. Kind of epic. You don't need to learn every opening, but it feels great to play the first few moves of each game with confidence. After that, you can review your games and try to learn one little new idea each time. Pretty soon, you'll be playing great openings without having to lock yourself away for a lifetime of study. Look at this. Why is this picture here? Britt van Winkle emerges after 20 years of studying the intricacies of a Sicilian Night variation. Everyone seems very unhappy about that. But his life, he can do what he wants. You need to calculate many moves ahead. Yes, it's great to be able to calculate deeply and play amazing combinations, but they're probably not going to gain you many rating points. What? How? No, you have to understand where you're going. Even at the highest levels, it's much more essential to calculate a wide variety of options for both sides and see all the simple tactics on the board, rather than go in-depth on any one line. Well, it depends what you mean by deep. For an actual master, deep might be like 5 times longer than I can do. I've played hundreds of tournament games in my career. I think that possibly my longest ever calculation in a classical game was in the position below. I calculated an 8-move line to justify a bishop sacrifice on g4, assuming that my opponent would recapture it immediately. Okay, so where does he sack? He sacks for a pawn. The opponent takes. I hadn't considered this move at all. I was lucky that black can keep control. Ah, that's bro. Calculate 8 moves, and then he got surprised in the second one. Instead, he expected the pawn to take, and then he would take with check. The king would move. He would take the pawn would get pushed. Take the other pawn, attack by the rook, and take another pawn. And he got 3 pawns for a bishop. I went straight with the queens. He loses a pawn. He was back, defends the knight. He loses another pawn. And the game goes on. I correctly evaluated that black had more than enough compensation for white bishop. But it didn't matter, because it didn't happen. Of course, my opponent surprised me on the very next move with an idea that I hadn't anticipated. That's typically how it goes in chess. The further ahead you're looking, the more likely it is that you're missing something early on, making the whole calculation irrelevant. But it's even an old saying, but it was popularized by GM Ben Larsen. Long analysis, wrong analysis. Well, a man with such a magnificent beard couldn't be wrong, right? Only analyze your losses. This piece of advice is well-meaning. You can learn a lot from your losses, yet you're going to sell yourself short if you focus most of your attention on any one type of result. You can check out this article on perfect chess games. They're incredibly rare. Most of us chess players would be thrilled to play any mistake-free game in our lives. Because we are constantly making mistakes, we should be trying to learn from every game we play. Wins, losses, and draws. That's true, because you can make a mistake in any position, and just because you won doesn't mean you've played perfectly, so you have to vary your game choices for your analyses. Most of your game review graphs probably look a bit like the one above. Both sides missed big opportunities, and have plenty to learn from this game. If you see a good move, look for a better one. Emanuel Lasker, the second world champion, created this perfectionist saying, there are occasional positions where his advice makes sense, and there's a brilliant idea that you'll miss if you play too fast. However, most positions have several sensible moves, and you'll run out of time if you look for something amazing that isn't there. Take a look at the position below from the game between Nakamura and Carlsen. What would you play for black? C6 perhaps? Rook E8 maybe? Carlsen chose G6 and went on to win the game. He didn't spend long on the move, because the other options and several additional choices led to nearly identical evaluations. There's no need to spend a long time pondering here. Unless you're in a sharp position, you typically try to string together as many good moves in a row, instead of trying to make a brilliant move happen in a position where it's probably unavailable. And here's a spin on that. If you see a good move, make it. Make it right now. Hurry up. You're going to lose some time. Bold move by Dan. I like this philosophy. And those are 5 chess moves that you might believe and might be hindering you.